All right, boys and girls, now we're moving on to example 6. Again, the directions are the same. The way this one's a little bit different is that, no, but notice by the title, we might have to work with each side separately, okay? As it might not simplify exactly to one another. So we might have to simplify the left side and the right side if they don't coincide, okay? So with that said, let's just start with the left side, okay? Just by looking at it, okay? So the one thing that I know for a fact, and like after a while, after doing so many of these, you kind of get the feeling you can simplify these, okay? So if you look at the numerator, we have sine theta um, times tangent square theta over secant theta minus 1, okay? So right off the bat, tangent square of theta stands out to me because that's a property. Okay, so I can rewrite tangent square theta as secant square theta minus 1. Okay, so here we go. Sine theta times secant square theta minus 1. And again, I get that from the Pythagorean identity. Sine squared, 1 plus tangent squared equals secant squared theta. Okay. And then in the bottom, since I have secant theta minus 1, I'm going to get rid of it by multiplying by the conjugate to the top and the bottom. Okay. So in doing so, I'm going to end up with, ready? I already have secant of theta minus 1. Now I'm going to multiply. Again, I'm just working with the left side, so ignore the right side. So I'm going to have secant theta plus 1, and then secant theta plus 1. Okay? So I kind of have a lot of secants and one sine, right? So there's kind of a lot going on. So then the other thing is I can FOIL this, the denominator, and I will end up with, ready? Secant, I'm trying to get myself enough room here. Secant squared theta minus 1. Okay, so it's the difference of squares. So if you notice, we have secant squared theta minus 1 in the numerator as well. So they will cancel each other out, okay? So this will cancel and that will cancel. So now we're left with, ready? Just sine theta, because now this is going to be 1 since it's simplified. So sine theta times secant theta plus secant theta plus 1. Okay. Okay, and it almost looks the same, but it doesn't quite look the same. Look. Definitely not looking the same, right? So here we go. Let me get my stuff out of the way. I'm trying to... Okay, so what are we missing here? Okay, what are we missing? So what else can I do? You know, and that's the part where I'm stuck. I don't feel like I could do it. Well, maybe I could change that secant, because I know we have a cosine and a cotangent, and boys and girls, secant can be written as 1 over cosine. So let's try that. Okay. So 1 over cosine theta plus 1. And then we have sine theta. So this is what we have, sorry. So sine theta I kept the same. Secant theta I wrote as 1 over cosine theta plus 1. Okay. And again, this is what I have here. Not quite the same, but then the only thing I can think of doing is distributing this, because then I know I'll have sine over cosine. So let me distribute. Okay. And let me bring my other whiteboard in. So now I'm going to have, okay, so this is what I have so far. Now I'm going to have sine of theta over cosine of theta plus sine of theta. Okay. And again, I'm just going to put it over 1. Then I'm thinking, since it's addition, then I'm going to go ahead and just multiply cosine and cosine. Okay. Top and bottom. Cosine of theta over cosine of theta. Okay. Then I can tell you sine over cosine is tangent. And then here we have sine and cosine. Okay, let's see. Okay, I don't know. Let's try. Okay, so here we go. Tangent of theta plus, and then guys, there's a sine and a cosine here. So that's going to be tangent. So, oops, trying to keep it in the same color scheme. Tangent of theta times cosine of theta. Okay. And then, let's see. I can factor out a tangent of theta. So let me factor out a tangent of theta. Tangent of theta, and then 1 plus cosine of theta. And you know what, guys? I've exhausted everything. There is nothing I can do anymore. Tangent of theta plus times 1 plus cosine of theta. So I factor out a tangent of theta. And honestly, I can't do anything else. So this is what I have, okay? And let me go over it before I even touch the right side, okay? So I'm going to start again just to show you. So the first thing that I simplified was, again, this is just the left side. Tangent squared of theta gave me secant squared theta minus 1. And then I multiply numerator and denominator by the conjugate. And if you do FOIL, you get the difference of squares, which is secant squared theta minus 1. And then there's a secant squared theta minus 1 numerator and denominator, so they cancel out. And so this is just left as 1, okay? So then on the top, you should only have sine theta times secant theta plus 1. So that's what I wrote down here. And then I got rid of the secant theta by writing 1 over cosine theta. And I went ahead and distribute the sine theta. So now I have sine of theta over cosine of theta plus sine of theta, of course, over 1. And since I'm adding fractions, I got a common denominator, so I multiply cosine of theta over cosine of theta. Sine of theta over cosine of theta is tangent of theta, and you have that going on over here as well. So we have tangent of theta times cosine of theta. Then I factor out a tangent of theta, which left me with 1 plus cosine of theta. And I've exhausted everything. There's nothing else I can simplify. So I'm completely done with this, okay? So now I'm going to take a look at the right side, see if there's anything I could do there. So this is my right side. I have cosine of theta plus 1, which if you look at my previous answer, I have that. 1 plus cosine of theta. It's the same. Doesn't matter. This is like saying 3 plus 4. Over here is like 4 plus 3. They're the same. So when it comes to adding, it doesn't matter. So they're the same. But over here I have it over cotangent of theta, and over here I have tangent. Well, boys and girls, this is the same as, ready? This is the same as saying 1 over cotangent of theta. Cotangent of theta is the same as 1 over cotangent of theta. And of course, I still have cosine of theta. Oops, I ran out of room. Over 1, right? Well, what's 1 over cotangent of theta? Let me get that out of the way. That's the reciprocal of tangent of theta. So this is the same as saying tangent of theta times, I'm not going to have any room there. Tangent of theta times cosine of theta plus 1. Sorry, I just don't have any room. And guess what? Now they're exactly the same. So even though they weren't written the same, all you have to do is just rewrite it the same by changing that cotangent of theta to tangent, because that's the reciprocal. So now they're exactly the same. Okay? All right, boys and girls. So now you have enough to do the checkpoint on example 6.